Adana lay awake, her mind racing with thoughts of how the news of her pregnancy would be received by the villagers. The more idea of it sent chills down her spine. But the most terrifying part was the truth. Another woman, her closest friend, was responsible. How could she ever explain that? The thought of the gossip, the judgment, and the inevitable questions filled her with dread. She couldn't sleep, haunted by the burden of this secret. After hours of restless contemplation, Adana made a decision. No one, not even Amara, needed to know the truth. The complications and the heartbreak that revelation will bring were too much to bear. She resolved to keep it to herself, protecting Amara from the confusion and pain that the truth would undoubtedly cause. It was a sacrifice, but one she felt was necessary. Meanwhile, Amara found herself growing increasingly concerned. Days had passed since she last saw Adana, and the silence was unsettling. Despite their decision to meet only outside, Amara couldn't shake the worry gnawing at her. Why hadn't Adana come to see her? What if something was wrong with her? The more she tried to push the thoughts away, the stronger they became. Finally, unable to stand the uncertainty any longer, Amara decided to go to Adana's hut. She knew the risk, how she struggled to maintain control whenever she was close to her. But her concern for her friend overpowered her fears. With her heart pounding, Amara made her way to Adana's home, anxious to find out if she was alright, yet dreading what she might discover. Adana was sleeping peacefully inside her dimly lit hut when the soft crack of the door roused her from her restless dreams. Blinking in the dim light, she saw Amara standing at the entrance. Instantly, the familiar urge of emotions flooded her. The feeling she tried so hard to bury. "Amara," Adana whispered, her voice thick with sleep and something else she couldn't quite name. She forced a smile, trying to push down the swell of emotions. "You are here." Amara smiled back, though it was tinged with worry. As she settled down beside Adana, she couldn't help but notice how pale her friend looked. "Are you alright, Adana? You look unwell. I have been worried about you," Amara said, her concern evident in her tone. Adana quickly shook her head, forcing a lightness into her voice that she didn't feel. "I'm fine, truly. Just a little tired. Nothing to worry about," she insisted, though her words did little to ease Amara's worry. As they sat together, Amara fought to keep her hands in her lap, to resist the overwhelming urge to reach out and touch Adana, to comfort her in a way that went beyond words. She clenched her hands into her fist, hoping the pressure would keep her grounded. The closeness, the familiarity of the space, it was all too much. But before she could gather her thoughts, Adana spoke again. "Amara," she began, her voice softer now, almost hesitant. "There is something I have been meaning to tell you. I have heard of a powerful seer, a Dibia, who lives far across the 7 kingdoms. They say she can see the truth in all things, that her wisdom is unmatched." Amara's brow furrowed in confusion. "A seer? Why are you telling me this?" Adana hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I have been thinking, if anyone could help us understand what's happening to you, it might be her. Perhaps she could provide answers, guardians, maybe even a solution to your problems." Her eyes searched Amara's face, trying to gauge her reactions. Amara was silent for a moment, The suggestion lingering between them, the idea of a seer who could unravel the strange tangle web of emotions and circumstances surrounding them, was both intriguing and frightening. Yet, the thought of traveling so far, of exposing herself to someone else, made her uneasy. "Are you sure this Dibia can help me?" Amara's voice trembled, the fear she had kept hidden for so long now rising to the surface. "Can she really explain why I was created like this, with both male and female organs?" Adana saw the anxiety in Amara's eyes, the fear of her secret being exposed. Gently, she reached out and took Amara's hands in hers, her touch warm and reassuring. "Yes, Amara," she said softly. "This Dibia is known for her powers. They say she can see deep into a person's lineage, their bloodline, and unravel even the most complex mystery. She can help us." The warmth of Adana's touch sent a jolt through Amara, her heart skipping a beat. She felt the familiar stirring within her, an erection she desperately tried to suppress. But the closeness, the tenderness of the moment overwhelmed her self-control. Before she could stop herself, she found her hand moving almost on its own, sliding up to Adana's bosom. "Amara, stop!" Adana's voice was sharp, breaking through the haze of Amara's emotion. She pulled back slightly, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and concern. "You need to get a grip of yourself. We can't keep doing this," Adana said to Amara. Amara froze, the reality of what she was doing crashing down on her immediately. She withdrew her hand quickly, shame flooding her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know what is wrong with me. I just can't. I can't control it anymore." Adana's expression softened as she saw the tears in Amara's eyes. She reached out again, this time cupping Amara's face in her hands, forcing her to meet her gaze. "We will find answers, Amara," she said firmly. "But you have to stay strong. We can't let these feelings control us. We have to find a way to understand them and to control them." Amara nodded her head, trying to steady her breathing, trying to push down the emotions that threatened to consume her. "I know," she murmured, "but it's so hard, Adana. Being near you, being around you, it's like I lose all sense of myself," Amara said. Adana sighed, her heart aching for her friend. "Then, we will find a way to keep our distance until we figure this out. And if the Dibia can help, then we will seek her out together, okay?" Amara and Adana made a solemn pact to journey beyond the 7 mountains in search of the great seer, who was said to possess the wisdom to solve even the most perplexed of mysteries. Amara's heart was a mix of hope and fear as she prepared for the journey, driven by a deep desire to be free from what she had always considered a curse. Returning to her village, Amara decided it was time to confide in her parents. She told them everything she had learned about the seer, her plan to seek a solution, and her determination to live like a normal woman. Her parents listened in shock and fear, as Amara was their only child. The thought of her embarking on such a dangerous journey terrified them. "This journey is perilous," her father warned, his voice trembling. "The path beyond the 7 mountains is fraught and dangerous. Are you sure about this?" Amara looked at her parents with determination in her eyes. "I must go," she said firmly. "I can't continue to live like this anymore. I want to be free, to live like any other woman," she said. Seeing that her mind was made up, her parents reluctantly gave their blessings, though their hearts were heavy and worried. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, Kelechi, Amara's ex-husband, was struggling with his own demons. Since returning Amara to her father's house, he had remained silent about the truth reason for their separation. The villagers, curious and suspicious, had been trying to pry the truth from him, but Kelechi always dismissed them with a vague response. But that fateful day, Kelechi found himself in the palm wine tapas bar, drowning his sorrows in drink. As the night wore on and the alcohol loosened his tongue, he began to sing like a bird. "My ex-wife," he slurred. "She is a monster. She has both male and female organs." He laughed. The men in the bar laughed at first, dismissing his words as drunken ramblings. But one of them, an older man, leaned forward and said to them, "A drunk man often reveals his deepest secrets. We should take heed. We should listen to him." The men exchanged uneasy glances, and though they said nothing more that night, the words weighed heavily on their minds. The next morning, the rumor spread like wildfire. Wives whispered to each other in the market, sharing the shocking news their husband had told them in the night. Soon, the entire village was buzzing with talk of Amara's supposed curse. As Amara went about her day, she noticed the strange looks and hushed whispers, but thought nothing of it. She had no idea that her most closely guarded secret was now common knowledge. The village elders, troubled by the rumors, gathered in secret. They summoned Kelechi and demanded the truth. With a resigned sigh, Kelechi confirmed the story. The elders were deeply disturbed. Their village had been plagued with misfortune, failed crops, sick animals, and unrest among the people. And now, they believed they had found the cause. "This cause must be eliminated," one elder declared, his voice filled with fear and anger. The gods are angry. The gods are angry, and they will not bless us as long as she remains in our midst. She is a curse." The others nodded in agreement, their faces grim. They began to discuss how they might rid the village of what they now saw as a curse, not realizing that Amara was already preparing to leave in search of her own salvation. Kelechi sat quietly in the corner of the elders' meeting, his heart heavy with guilt and fear. As the elders spoke of eliminating Amara to rid the village of what they believed was a curse, Kelechi's mind was in turmoil. He still loved Amara deeply, despite the fear and confusion that had driven him to abandon her. The memory of their wedding night, the shock of discovering her secret, had haunted him ever since then. But now, faced with the reality of what the village intended to do, Kelechi felt an overwhelming need to protect her. The elder's voice droned on, discussing plans to quietly remove Amara before the situation worsened. Kelechi's heart raced. He knew he couldn't let this happen. The thought of Amara being harmed because of something she couldn't control was unbearable. As the meeting came to an end, Kelechi rose slowly, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He couldn't stay silent any longer. He had to warn her. That night, as darkness fell over the village, Kelechi made his way to Amara's home. The shadow seemed to close in around him, and every rustle of leaves made his heart skip a beat. He knew he was taking a great risk by going to her, but he couldn't live with himself if he didn't try to save her. When he arrived at Amara's home, he hesitated for a moment, then knocked softly on the door. Amara opened it, surprised to see him standing there. The look of fear and sadness in his eyes caught her off guard. "Kelechi," she whispered, her voice tinged with both curiosity and concern. "What are you doing here by this time of the night?" Kelechi stepped inside quickly, closing the door behind him. "Amara," he began, his voice trembling, "I am here to warn you. The elders, they are planning something terrible. They think you are the reason the village is suffering, and they want to eliminate you." Amara's eyes widened in shock. "What? Why would they think of a thing like that?" Kelechi looked down, ashamed. "It's my fault. I was drunk, and I said things I shouldn't have. The villagers found out about your condition, and now they believe you are cursed. I'm sorry, Amara. I never meant for this to happen like this." Amara's heart sank. The very thing she had feared all her life was now coming to pass right in front of her. She had always known that her secrets could destroy her, but hearing it from Kelechi made it all the more real. "What do I do now? What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have to leave the village immediately," Kelechi urged, his eyes pleading with her. "Tonight, you have to leave. You can't sleep over here. It's not safe. Go and look for help. Find a dibia, find a seer, anyone. But you must leave now before it's too late." Amara nodded her head, her mind racing. She knew Kelechi was right. The village she had called home her entire life had turned against her, and staying would only mean certain death for her. With a heavy heart, she began to gather her things, knowing that she might never see this place again. Kelechi watched her, feeling a deep sense of loss. He knew that once she left, everything between them would be over. But he also knew that this was the only way to save her. As Amara prepared to leave, Kelechi took her hand. His voice choked with emotions. "I'm so sorry, Amara. I never meant to hurt you. I hope you find what you are looking for." Amara looked into his eyes, seeing the pain and regret etched on his face. Despite everything, she still cared for him. But there was no time for words of comfort. "Please tell my friend Adana that I have gone to see the seer. Also tell her to take care of my parents," she said as she squeezed his hands, then turned and walked out into the night, determined to find the seer and hopefully a way to finally be at peace with herself. As soon as Amara slipped away into the night, Kelechi began to make his way back home. But as he reached the edge of her family's compound, he noticed torchlights flickering in the distance. His heart sank as he realized what was happening. The village youth were coming for Amara. Quickly, Kelechi ducked behind a large tree and peeped out cautiously. The group of young men, led by a very young leader, approached Amara's hut. Their voices raised in angry chants. Amara's parents, hearing the commotion, rushed out of the hut, their faces pale with fear and confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" her father demanded, though his voice was trembling. "Bring out your cursed daughter, Amara," the youth leader shouted in unison, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and superstition. Her mother clutched her chest, shaking her head frantically. "She is not cursed. She is our daughter. What do you want with her?" The youth leader, tall and intimidating, pushed past the elderly couple with little regard. She has brought suffering upon our land. We demand justice. Step aside, old man." Despite their fear, Amara's parents bravely blocked the doorway, their frail bodies standing as the only barrier between the mob and the empty house. "You will not harm our daughter," her father shouted, though he was trembling. But the youth leader, fueled by the fervor of the crowd, roughly yanked them aside, sending them stumbling on the ground. With a loud war cry, the youth rushed into the hut, overturning furniture and searching every corner. They tore through the compound, checking every nook and cranny, their frustration growing with each passing moment. But Amara was nowhere to be found. The youth leader, realizing that their target had escaped, led the group back outside. "She's gone," he spat, his voice dripping with frustration. "But we will find her, and when we do, she will pay for the curse she has brought upon this land." With that, the group turned and marched away, their chants fading in the distance. Amara's parents, still trembling with fear, collapsed in front of their home, overwhelmed with relief that their daughter had not been found, but deeply anxious about where she might be and what danger she might face. From his hiding spot, Kelechi watched the entire scene unfold, his heart pounding in his chest. He stayed hidden until the mob was out of sight, then quietly slipped away, running back to his own home under the cover of darkness. His thoughts were a jumble of fear for Amara and guilt for his role in what had happened. The next morning, Kelechi returned to Amara's hut. Her parents, still shaking, were surprised to see him. Before they could ask questions, Kelechi confessed everything. How he had overheard the youth planning the attack, how he had warned Amara in time for her to escape, and how he had witnessed the search that night. Amara's mother wept with gratitude as her father clasped Kelechi's hand. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have saved our daughter's life. May the gods watch over her and protect her on her journey." Kelechi nodded his head. Though he felt no relief, he knew the danger was far from over, and he could only hope that Amara would find the answers she sought before the village rat caught up with her. Amara fled deeper into the forest, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She could hear the echoes of the village chant in the distance. But she pushed forward, driven by the desperate need to be free. As she crossed the 7 mountains, her body ached and her mind raced with thought of what lay ahead. Yet she pressed on, knowing that turning back was not an option. Eventually, Amara reached a small cave nestled deep within the mountain. The entrance was hidden by thick vines and twisted roots, but she felt a pull guiding her towards it. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. There, sitting on a stone throne, was the great seer Ijele, a woman whose reputations preceded her. A seer who was said to dine with the gods themselves. Amara's heart raced as she approached Ijele, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. She greeted the seer with deep respect and humility, bowing her head before her. Ijele nodded, her gaze piercing and knowing. "I have been waiting for you, Amara," Ijele said, her voice echoing softly in the cave. "From the moment you arrived on this earth, I have known you would come to me," Ijele said. Amara stared at the seer, confusion clouding her thoughts. How can that be possible, she thought, trying to comprehend what Ijele was saying. But before she could voice her confusion, Ijele answered her unspoken questions. "You are here because of the burden you carry," Ijele continued, her voice calm and assured. "The burden of being born with both male and female organs," Ijele said. Amara gasped, her eyes widened in shock. How could the seer know such a secret? But then she remembered. Oh, this was Ijele, the great seer who could see beyond the veil of the physical world. Her fear deepened as she realized the extent of Ijele's powers. "Come, sit." Ijele gestured to a woven mat on the ground. "I have a story to tell you." Amara hesitated, then slowly sat down, her body tense with anticipation. She watched the seer closely, her mind racing with questions. Ijele began her tale. Long ago, there was a barren woman named Egodi, married to a good man in the village. She sought a cure for her barrenness, visiting every native herbalist in the land. But despite all the herbs and the rituals, she remained without child. Her husband, though patient at first, eventually remarried another woman who bore him children. Amara listened intently, her heart aching with the sorrow in the seer's words. One night, Ijele continued, Egodi was bathing under the moonlight, as instructed by one of the herbalists she had visited. But the second wife, filled with envy and malice, saw her and raised a false alarm. The villagers, fueled by fear and superstition, gathered and accused Egodi of witchcraft, claiming that she had devoured all the children in her womb. They dragged her to the village boundary and killed her. Amara's breath caught in her throat as she imagined the horror of Egodi's fate. With her dying breath, Ijele said, as she continued the story, Egodi swore that she would return to the earth and to that village and have a child of her own, whether as a man or a woman. And so she was reborn through you, Amara. Amara's eyes widened in disbelief. Egodi was reborn as me? I am the reincarnation of Egodi, she whispered, the realization dawning on her. The burden she had carried all her life, the confusion, the pain, it all began to make sense. Yes, Ijele confirmed. Egodi's soul returned, determined not to take chances. That is why you were born with both male and female organs, so that in this life she has come, Egodi would finally experience the fullness of creation, either as a man or as a woman. Amara's mind spun with the revelation. The mysteries of life, of her life, were unraveling before her eyes. I understand now, she said, her voice trembling. But I want to be free. I want to live like a normal woman. Is there a way out? Is there any way you can help me, great Ijele? Ijele looked deep into Amara's eyes, her expression serious. You must choose, Amara. Will you take the form of a man or the form of a woman? You cannot be both. Amara thought long and hard, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She considered everything she had been through, but she worried. What if she is more active as a man than as a woman? What if she decides to be a woman and she won't give birth anymore? What if being a man will fulfill the wishes of her reincarnation? The thoughts confused her as she worried. "I choose to be a woman," she finally said, her voice firm. "I have more features of a woman, and I wish to live as one." Ijele nodded her head as if she had expected this choice. "Very well. The ritual will begin now, but it will not be an easy one. You must be strong." For 4 days and 4 nights, corresponding to the 4 market days, Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo, Ijele performed the ritual. She chanted incantations and mixed sacred herbs and invoked the spirits of the ancestors and the god of creation. Amara laid on the cold stone floor of the cave, unconscious, her body racked with pain as the ritual progressed. On the final day, as the sun began to rise, Ijele completed the incantation and prayers to the god of creations. Amara, exhausted and weak, opened her eyes as Ijele whispered the final words. She felt different and lighter, as if she had been reborn. Slowly, she reached down, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached down as she touched her manhood. The burden she had carried all her life was gone. It was gone. It is gone. Tears filled her eyes as she realized the enormity of what had just happened. "I am free," she said as she cried. Back in the village, chaos reigned. The village chief priest was furious with the elders for taking actions without consulting him. "You fools!" he roared. "The girl you tried to kill was the cure to our troubled land." The elders, now filled with regret, listened as the chief priest revealed the truth. Amara is the reincarnated soul of Egode, the barren woman who was wrongfully accused and stoned to death years ago at the boundary of our village. Only her forgiveness can cleanse our land and restore peace. "Why did you take such decision without involving me?" the chief priest said to them angrily. The elders, shocked and ashamed, ordered the youth to search for Amara, but she was nowhere to be found. As the search continued, Amara's parents, Kelechi and Adana, who had come over to help Amara's parents and is now visibly pregnant, kept their knowledge of her whereabouts a secret. They feared that revealing the truth would only lead to more harm. Meanwhile, Adana silently vowed to take the secret of her pregnancy to the grave. She knew the villagers would never understand the truth, and she was determined to protect Amara at all costs. In the forest, Amara emerged from the cave, feeling as if she had been reborn, lighter and happier. The burden that had weighed her down for so long was finally lifted. She looked up at the sky, a sense of peace washing over her. As Amara prepared to leave, Ijele called her back, her voice carrying a weight of ancient wisdom. "Amara," she began, "there is something more you need to know. The curse that plagued your land was placed there by Egode herself. The harsh judgment and brutal way in which the villagers killed her led her to lay a curse upon the land. Only you, as her reincarnation, have the power to forgive the people and lift the curse." Ijele handed Amara a small vial filled with a mysterious liquid. "Pour this on the boundary of your village," she instructed. "It will cleanse the innocent blood and signal your forgiveness." Amara took the vial, her heart heavy with the responsibility, but she was determined to do what was necessary. She thanked Ijele for her help and began the journey back to her village. When Amara got to her village, to the boundary. She carefully poured the liquid on the ground, watching as it seeped into the earth. As she crossed into her village, a sense of renewal washed over her. She felt lighter, freer, as though the weight of her past had been lifted. She couldn't help but laugh at the realization her manhood was no longer there. It was truly gone. As she walked through the villagers began to notice her return. Their faces lit up with joy and relief. They cheered and gathered around her, hugging her and singing in celebration. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of hope and renewal as Amara, now fully a woman, made her way home to her father's compound. When she arrived at her father's compound, the villagers had already gathered outside. Her parents, hearing the commotion, rushed out to see what was happening. Their eyes widened with disbelief and then overflow with tears of joy when they saw their daughter standing before them. They embraced her, their hearts filled with relief and gratitude. Amara, her voice trembling with emotion, said, "The manhood is gone. It is gone. I am now free. I am now a woman." Tears streaming down her face as she shared the news with her parents and the gathered villagers. The crowd erupted in cheers, their joy palpable as they celebrated Amara's transformation. Amidst the jubilation, Adana, who has been helping Amara's parents since she embarked on her journey, emerged from the back of the hut. Amara's eyes widened in shock when she saw her friends visibly pregnant. Adana, smiling brightly, approached Amara and hugged her tightly. Amara, still surprised, hugged her back, noticing something different within her. She no longer felt the confusing urge that had once tormented her life. A deep sense of peace settled in her heart as she hugged her best friend, Adana. As the crowd began to disperse, the elders and the chief priest arrived. They approached Amara, their face solemn with guilt and remorse. Bowing their heads, they asked for her forgiveness, apologizing for the pain and suffering they had caused her. Amara, understanding the depth of their regret, responded with grace. "I have already forgiven you all," she said, her voice calm and full of resolve. "Let the past be the past. We must move forward to our glorious future." Later, when the villagers had all gone, Amara took Adana to the back of the hut, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Adana," she asked softly, "how did you get pregnant? Why didn't you tell me?" Adana laughed lightly, trying to brush off the question. "I met someone," she said, her tone casual. "We have been seeing each other for a while now. And well, things just happened and here I am, pregnant." She laughed. Amara wasn't entirely convinced. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you not mention it all this while if you have been in a relationship with a man?" Adana's expression softened. "You were going through so much, Amara. I didn't want to add to your burden with any of my troubles." Amara stared at her friend, torn between relief and suspicion. But Adana reassured her, smiling warmly. "I am fine, Amara. Everything is as it should be. I am fine. Don't worry about me." Amara hugged her friend, grateful for her support, though a small part of her still wondered about the truth her friend just told her. The next day, Kichi came to visit Amara. His face lit up with joy when he saw her alive and well. "Amara," he said, his voice filled with emotions. I am so happy you survived everything. Amara thanked him for saving her life, her heart filled with gratitude. Kelechi, his eyes earnest, asked her for forgiveness, and Amara, understanding the depth of his pain and confusion, forgave him. Overcome with emotions, Kelechi then asked Amara to be his wife once more. Amara hesitated, her mind clouded with doubt. But Adana, ever the voice of reason, encouraged her. Forgive him, Amara, she urged. Give him and yourself a second chance to love and live. Moved by her friend's words, Amara agreed. She forgave Kelechi and married him again. This time, their marriage was blessed. Amara soon became pregnant, her heart overflowing with joy and gratitude to the gods. She thanked the gods every day for giving her a chance at life and a chance to create life. Meanwhile, Adana gave birth to a healthy baby boy. But she never revealed the identity of the child's father to anyone, keeping that a secret close to her heart, not even to Amara. Despite the mystery, she was content, and so was Amara, who went on to have many children with Kelechi. Amara's life, once filled with confusion and pain, was now a life of happiness and fulfillment. The curse on the land was lifted, and peace returned to the village. Amara had not only freed herself from her past, but had also brought healing to her people, and in the end, she lived a long and happy life, surrounded by her loving family and the villagers who had once feared her.